Great. It's wonderful to be here. I feel like a very special occasion that you contributed to this book, The Arts and Computation. All these diverse views and ideas together and actually make a whole. For that reason, because there's so many diverse writing books. Going to today talk about, mainly focus for my talk, your contributions and John. Some chapters, some together. So that our first 4 chapters of this back picks up part 1. Showing pioneers of art and science. And you can see the first 4 chapters, we identify figures. Leonardo da Vinci, you probably heard of him. Now, go on in a circle. Probably not as many of you familiar with Fabrice Gallon, the French mathematician, but you'll get to know and love him. And then we have, of course, Alan Turing, Gaussian. The digital road to the age of AI. That's a critical notion of a digital road where we land up in the present, really from about 1950. And in the spirit of Leonardo, it's not just what's happening with our computers and technology. The arts take the center stage and lead to get to where we are. Here you see an image of Everest Galois. He stays from 1811 to 1832 at the moment of his duel. He was shot and killed. And a pretty dramatic moment. And I did, this is a little generative art thing that I did. And I was amazed that I like the image. It's sort of a little bit shadows, but he's definitely holding a gun. Leonardo da Vinci, icon of Renaissance revolution, merging art, science, and technology, is beyond human identity. In the 1460s to his death, 1519 at Chateau Lycée. Still, he remains a global influencer in contemporary thought. So his great achievement is bringing together science and technology, one main experience which he lived. First of these 4 images that you see are paintings. 3 of them, the first 3 of our Leonardo. So you see Saint Jerome in the wilderness. The painting that I think he really did of himself. At that moment in his life, he really felt the sense of the wilderness. Painted around 13 because he had to leave Florence because he was being accused of sodomy. And at that time in Florence, punishment was death. It was a certain urgency to find a new home, and by great luck, got Milan. Count Melzi took him in. It was, and Count Nelson had a huge villa, which still exists. Magnificent place. He lived there, and it's where he first associated with Francois Melzi, the son of the count. He was a very and so this is a painting. There's a little argument about what my interpretation is that he took that painting and had with him. He never finished. Of course, the Mona Lisa he took to France also and finished it there. Then we have St. John the Baptist. And this is a photograph I took. That's right. I was in Abu Dhabi. And I won't describe it. If you haven't been there, it's a magnificent place. Very original. It's architecture. It's right in the water. So these two paintings, the Mona Lisa and the St. John the Baptist, Leonardo took with him to France and finished it at the chateau, which was a gift to him by the King of France, Francois I. That was the end of his life. This last picture, you wonder, what is that? It's called the Mona Anna, the nude Mona Lisa. That was painted by Salai, who was his other assistant. So you had Francois Melzi and Salai. His real name was John Giacomo di Lorenzo. Stayed with Leonardo for his entire life. So this brings us to the next slide. I just want to mention that when Leonardo went to France, he was leaving from the Vatican very shortly. And he went, the only way they could get there was by mule, crossing the Alps. Mule. Imagine this, with all this stuff. He took with him on that trip the three paintings that he gave to France, which was St. John the Baptist, the Mona Lisa, and St. Anne. Finished the period of his life. Next slide. So here we have from Leonardo, who was really like the first humanist. His influence was huge on Michelangelo. And we really see a powerful symbol of humanism, Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, Vatican 1512. Monumental work when the image of God takes on human identity. This is a great moment. God creates Adam. Hands touch. Now we're assuming that this is really an iconic moment where these two hands almost touched you. There's a little gap there. But you feel the sense of electricity between these two figures. And the important thing is that the figure of Adam is religious work. It's in the Sistine Chapel. Humans, the identity becomes human, and that is really quite revolutionary. Touch. I was inspired by this notion in Leonardo da Vinci's Beyond Human Identity, the computational culture in the age of AI. How will reality and virtuality integrate? So this is a little poem I wrote about it, which I'll briefly read. So my proclivity for creativity, what about AI sensibility? I'm a woman, more than human. My life in cyberspace leaves no trace of the real life I left behind. Reminds me of past times. I'm a woman beyond human. A digital image of life I knew, morphing into virtual reality, of totality of digital identity. Unplug the computer. Life's more than digital. Remember the original. Love reaches beyond human identity. Human's hands touch. Love you so much. So this is an image I made to illustrate that concept in the poem. And we're kind of all, in a way, this dilemma, these two worlds, and we're trying to find new understanding of human identity. And back to Leonardo, and one, this is a detail from the Last Supper. Which I'll talk about in a minute. But as you can see, Leonardo's identity, and then after him, Michelangelo, etc., going all the way to present, really brings into play, into modern context, which we are experiencing today is this gender identity crisis, not a crisis, but it's more complex publicly discussed than it's ever been. We have the human identity, and a big part of that is gender identity. Is certainly a big topic today. But from Da Vinci's Last Supper, completed in 1498, Andy Warhol's some 100 versions of it, painted in Milan, 1986 to 87, the year he died. His protege, Jean-Michel Basquiat, died in 1988. In 1989, Tim Berners-Lee invented it should be the web.
Thanks, Nick.
That's the web. I read it out loud. No, but I'll make that correction. The web. Okay, so two huge steps for the human spirit uniting high and pop art, global communication. And this is something that's, until recently, really appreciated and understood, this merging of high and some people call low art. It's
We're just going to switch mics.
Say hello online.
Hi, online folks. But this is a big part of what makes today possible. Because today, and in the computational culture, that's a critical element. Global participation, non-judgment. This is high, this is low. Creativity. Has their own sense of creativity. So this allowed a huge audience in. This particular photograph I took in 2018 when they had the Warhol retrospective at the Whitney Museum. This is first. Imagine he did 100 versions. He became obsessed, literally obsessed, with the Last Supper. And in a way, that was not just a casual connection with Da Vinci, it was very deep in his whole psyche. So, it was, and he was, I'll read this little section because he was at the church that's right across, maybe that's in my next slide. No. Yes, okay. The little church right across the street from the church where Da Vinci's Last Supper. So it's really amazing, almost 2 years. This project, and it was his last project before he died. So it shows you how the past became. we jump to the French Revolution. And the French Revolution is in terms of computational culture and what we are experiencing today. And the revolution is tied closely with what we call republicanism. Because at that moment in time, there was a rejection of the monarchy. In the US, they say, by the people, for the people. Oh, everybody is slogan for the French Revolution was liberté, égalité, fraternité. Right, and was written in, went all the way through 1958, Charles de Gaulle and Fifth Republic, the last that was new. They kept that in the Constitution, liberté, égalité. It's like diversity, equity, and inclusion. You have this importance there of the assertion of the power of the people, and individual choice and freedom of expression at the highest level. So that was to every Galois. Because what we see here, this is a very famous painting of Vernet, Maurice Vernet. It's a scene from the Franco-Prussian War. In particular, the Battle of Jena, which was the deciding battle of the Franco-Prussian War, led by Napoleon Bonaparte. That was Napoleon I. And first he was the head of government, but then he declared himself national sense to the imperial. And back and forth to royal, to national, and until things settled after World War II, it was 1958 was the Fifth Republic, and in the Constitution again, liberté, égalité, fraternité. And this document here shows that the brother of Galois' father was at that battle. He was in the Grande Armée of Napoleon, and this is his dossier of the Legion of Honor. Specific date, 1806, that this battle took place, and he was there. So this was a powerful moment because it was that moment where the whole culmination of the French Revolution had taken place. And they did a lot of things that are happening now in culture today, like renaming. Everyone was a citizen. That was a new thing. They renamed the days of the calendar, the years. They also established in 1794 the École Polytechnique, which exists today, and it's still a technical or computer science school in France. That was started by the French Revolution. Also, 1795, the Music Conservatoire, still considered one of the top conservatories in the world. But one thing that was very new about that was how you got entrance into these institutions. And they thought they were really making a step towards freedom and freedom of expression, and where anybody could be accepted based on what they call concours, to audition. In one way or another, take a test, and the best are accepted to the committee. Now, certainly in the US, and I think this is taking hold worldwide, these types of concours are being considered keeping people out, and that But at that time, the French Revolution people, host would like you to unmute.
Yes, please unmute, Tula, so the people online can hear. We're having just a little bit of an issue with.
Is it unmuted? No, is it? Oh my God. We're under attack.
We're just having an issue with the microphone, not your fault at all.
Okay. If I don't use the mic, then it doesn't happen?
No,
Was Catherine recorded?
Catherine was recorded, yeah, it's just an issue with the online.
Oh, it's an issue with the online, or generally.
Yeah. Okay, right.
So I'll just finish that thought. So at that time, it was, with the French Revolution, they ended the privileged entrance and you had to audition. So it was based on your performance or talent. And that's held through all the way to up till about 2 years ago or so. When this is being pushed, there's a big pushback on that. So we're going back to privilege, one privilege or another. It's not your talent, it's something about you as your status or whatever, your identity. So it's an interesting thing to think about, how that should play out. Where's the balance in that? But anyway, Galois and his family were Republicans. So in a sense, that was interpreted as anti-monarchy and also anti-Catholic to a certain extent. And of course, after 1789, you come to the Reign of Terror in 1792. A lot of people died there. And they were the privileged. You know, they were on trial. It was pretty serious stuff. And now I'm going to come to Galois. I'm trying to get the next slide up. It doesn't move. Yeah. My slide doesn't move.
I'm trying to. I'm trying.
What happened? It froze. Why? I don't know. I hit that. Okay, that's the next slide. So this, can you see the heading? No, I can't. Okay. So this is from Everest Galois. So his father, his uncle, you see, was very high positioned in the army of Napoleon Bonaparte. But his father was mayor of the town Bourg-la-Reine in a southern suburb of Paris, where Galois was born. And from a very young age, he was identified as kind of a math genius, a genius in other things. But he was this brilliant child, and he went to school in Paris when he was only 12 years old. And he was just one of these people who just had an incredible gift. So this, I'm going to read you a paragraph in his, that he writes in 1831. He died in 1832. So, and at this moment in time, he's in prison. He's at the Saint-Pélagie prison because while some people had been arrested and got into problems for their politics, he got into problems for his math because he had what they considered radical ideas. And who was he to challenge a professor? So it led to bad things happening. And he was at that time, it was Louis Philippe who had become king. They went back to the monarchy. So he was king at that time. And Galois, of course, got into trouble by making fun of him. So let me just take a little sip of water here. So I don't have the mic anymore, but I hope you can hear me. I'll try my best. So since the beginning, this is Galois writing in his préface à deux mémoires d'analyse pure. And this is a translation I did. Since the beginning of this century, computational procedures have attained such a degree of complication that any progress had become impossible by these means, except with the elegance with which new modern mathematicians have believed they should bring to their research, and by means of which the mind promptly and with a single glance comprehends a large number of operations. The most advanced mathematicians have elegance as their object. One may therefore conclude with certainty that it has become more and more necessary to embrace several operations at once, because the mind does not have time anymore to stop for details. And that is really way in advance. It's even advanced for today. That he has a sense of his mind as a kind of a neural network that can do many operations in an instant and absorb the complexity, a sense of it's not a single linear vision. It's like a neural network that the brain of a human, that was pretty advanced. No more time to stop at details. When you can imagine if he expressed these ideas in his classes at the Polytechnique, that's why he got thrown out, he was expelled. And then we see here, this is the last place he lived in Paris, and he lived there with his mother, Adelaide Demont. And the Demont family, I told you about his father, Nicolas Gabriel Galois. The mother was Demont, and they were very different. The Demont family were the highest level faculty of law at the Sorbonne. It's really incredible, these two sides of the family. You had the father who's a Republican, and the rest of the family is up there with the ruling class as the faculty of the Sorbonne, and the highest positions of that faculty. And so this 16 Rue des Bernardins is also in the 5th arrondissement, which is in the Sorbonne area, just a stone's throw. And he was living there, he was now in prison at the Saint-Pélagie prison. And that's the last place he lived. And here's a little plaque. If you're in Paris, you go to this address and you'll see this plaque on the wall of the building. And about Everest, it says, Everest Galois, mathematician and Republican. One of the founders of modern algebra lived in this building in 1831. So these are critical advances that he made. And he had such a short life. He was only 20 when he was shot in a duel. Next slide will tell a little about that. And why is all that on my screen now?
Just because we had some people joining from online, so we'll just do that quickly.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Just get rid of that for you. And
Okay,
That should be good.
so
That'll be
Fatal
fun.
Attraction. There's a lot of those. This is June, Paris, June 1832. And we, at that moment in time, the cholera pandemic. It was like our COVID pandemic. And the cholera pandemic caused Galois to be transferred from Saint-Pélagie prison to Dr. Foltrier's hospital. It was like a pension hospital. The other prisoners were also moved. Now, this isn't the kind of prison you usually think about. There were lots of artists who got imprisoned in Saint-Pélagie. It was the place where notables went when they went to prison, all kinds of poets. And later on, you go to 1871, you had Courbet. Gustave Courbet was in prison there. There's a wonderful painting he did of himself, a self-portrait in prison. You can see the prison bars, he's there. And so at that point in time, Galois could have been released from prison after he had stayed for about a month or so at Foltrier's hospital, but he wanted to stay there. And Foltrier's daughter, Stephanie, was helping out her father, and Galois fell madly in love with Stephanie. And this became pretty obvious. They had love letters going back and forth. And anyway, over this affair, he got challenged to a duel. And he accepted the duel. People told him, don't do it. But he went ahead with it. And that wasn't that uncommon. You know, Dumas spent time at Saint-Pélagie. He was in a duel. But unfortunately, he was shot and killed in the duel. And that was on the last day of May of 1732. And by the 2nd of June, he had been buried in the Cimetière Montparnasse. And there is one last love letter that Stephanie writes to him and just says, we can't continue with this affair, this isn't working. It's almost like he was seeking he was devastated. But he had made a plan for, he felt that he was at his end, and he had already arranged for his friend Chevalier to give all his manuscripts to Loisville. Loisville was an important mathematician in his own right, 2 years older than Galois, and they had been in school together. They were great friends. And Galois, the main condition was publish my last works that I've done here, this math. And he did do that, he did follow through. So here we see, this is a portrait of a drawing of Galois that was done in 1848 by Galois' brother, younger brother, who loved him very much. And it was Galois' brother who found him right after he had been shot. He didn't live far away from that location, and got him to the hospital, and where he died. But actually, what killed him more than the gunshot was the wound he got on his head when he fell. He fell over backwards from the gunshot. That was according to the autopsy, his autopsy. So here he is. His brother died a year later, 1849. This is a picture of the prison. This is Saint-Pélagie. And what's interesting is it's a photograph which was done by Haché, a very well-known French photographer. And I was trying to find images of the prison. It wasn't so easy. And I found this. This was a postcard with Haché's photograph on it. So you can picture Galois there with many other luminaries, well-known poets, etc. And this is Dr. Foltrier's Pension Hospital, which is still in Paris today. And here is an interesting connection because this image is of that same time, the 1832 period, but it's part of, you can see, Les Miserables. That whole story comes out of this period, which is a story that people recognize and know. And it became a Broadway musical. So it was published in the first edition of Les Miserables was 1862, but then we had the musical was premiered in 1986 in New York, but it started in London in 1985. And that's been very influential on people's thoughts of this period. Cosette sweeping. It was a big hit in London as it was in New York, and it's still on Broadway in New York. It keeps coming back. I think it's on Broadway right now. So, let's see. Next slide. Can we get to the next slide? Why is this? Why? Okay. I don't understand why it goes into that mode each time. That's strange, isn't it?
It is, but that should work.
So now we come to the third pioneer. I got to move along fast now. Tell me how am I doing? Nick will know. Where's Nick? Oh no. Okay, we're going to go this is how I lose track of time. Okay, I'm just going to say that this is, I want to feature, this is a book, this is Jonathan's book, The Turing Guide.
I'll see more of that later.
We'll do more of that later, but I just want to mention one thing about this little section of page 42 of a Turing manuscript that's online in the Turing archives. And its title, it's on the last page, Intelligence as an Emotional Concept. So connecting emotion with intelligence. And his example is, it's a very simple one, that if there's an object, how do you determine whether that object is intelligent? And he says, it depends on who's looking. It's through the eyes of the observer, you'll always get a different thing. But if the object is totally controlled by rules, it's not intelligent. And then you think ahead to artists like Miro, who just always kept saying, break all the rules. Now I'm gonna go fast now. So this is part 6 and part 7. These 3 chapters, arts in the public square, real and virtual space, cultural conflict and heritage, and arts research in a computational framework, are all in that section, context of computational culture. And then part 7 is the future. So this is past to present, tools of the artist. Here's Picasso in 1908 in his studio, surrounded by, first of all, you can see how he had a lot of ethnographic things. And so Picasso 1908 at his studio in Montmartre. And then here we have Refik Anadol, a well-known computational artist, pioneer in aesthetics and data and machine intelligence, working in his studio. Think of the difference in these 2 studios. This is a major impact of computational culture, that the artist studio was changed dramatically. And here we have, this is an important moment in the digital road to AI, surrealism. Surrealism gave the artist the opportunity to paint and to create from imagination, not just from what you see in nature, but you could have hallucinations and create them. This was a whole new way of approaching art. And it starts with Picasso. It really, the manifesto was André Breton, a poet. This is when poetry becomes very tightly connected with art. Picasso wrote poetry, then you have Breton, you have Miro, and other artists that were also poets. So it's now 100 years since the manifesto, 2024, from 1924 to 2024. And so we have these various artists, of course, Salvador Dali, that ignited the flowering of the arts from cubism and abstraction to modernism. So the age of AI is transforming the arts, merging real and virtual. And here's a 1907 painting of Picasso, one of his most famous, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. Look how early that was, cubism, breaking up reality as interpreted through emotion and human feeling. And then we have one of Miro's first paintings in Surrealism, 1924. And this is important, Plutôt la vie. That's really choose life. This is the 1968 student uprising in Paris that was written on a wall, which is taken from the title of a poem, the last 4 lines of the poem, Choose Life, André Breton. Life, the blush of God. Life like a virgin passport, a little known like Pont à Mousson, and as if all has already been said. So here we come to a couple of examples from Cultural Conflict, Threatens Heritage and Memory of Things Past, Proust. Experiencing the arts at a time of global discord and war challenges the future of life in a new computational landscape, rapidly transforming, to be or not to be. Shakespeare, of course. And here we see this picture with women holding signs. Women in Iran protest the killing of Mahsa Amini. It was big. This is very recent, this uprising. All she did was take off her headscarf and landed up dead. And just about a week ago, we have the same incident happening with another Iranian artist, and who expressed her art in public and was arrested, beaten up, and thrown in prison. I don't even know if this artist is still living. And the art in the public square, the world of Banksy, immersive exhibition, text on wall, and his big message, there's always hope. This is a little slide on generative art. These images here were done by Jonathan. And this is a work of Anadol that was at the MoMA Museum. And you see how it's changing? Now this one is programmed, so it repeats. But when you see Anadol's work, you never see the same image again. It's just constantly a new way of creating the work. And he is known for creating his own model of the database. So at MoMA, he based his work there on all of the digitization of MoMA's works to form a database, and then he drew on that to create his work. That was also very recent show. And this is immersive experience in the metaverse, creating virtual works where avatars engage with computational life across global boundaries. You see this little video here. This is the latest thing. It's called Sora, and it's an AI generated film. So it's not just text prompt for a video, it's a text prompt for the entire film. The image, the sound, the music, everything brought together. And this is the people in the film industry are kind of worried about this. And it already has become a big challenge. And this is obvious. This is not a person who lost their head and is a balloon. It's called the Balloon Man, Airhead. And it's pretty scary. Here, I did this image, an image made with Deep Dream Generator using the slide title as the prompt. This is a get ready for a new computational future from the metaverse and generative AI to LLMs, and now moving faster towards AGI, artificial general intelligence. So tech giants as Meta, NVIDIA, and Microsoft compete for leadership, while humans scramble to keep up with new tech developments as they interact with AI and robots, while human identity is morphing. Welcome to the AI revolution. The new first everyone predicted, oh, AGI, that's not coming for 50, 60 years, 100 years, but now it's supposed to be 2027. It's like around the corner. This is in Dubai. This is the Museum of the Future. And they really have a fantastic galleries for immersive exhibitions. That's had a big impact there. And I brought this image up, goes past to present, very famous image, Liberty Leading the People by Delacroix. 1830, this is Galois time. And it's recently, it had never been restored. It was recently restored with new computational methods that are becoming more and more used in restoration of artworks to be able to see beyond the surface and actually see what's a more three-dimensional sense of the painting. And this will be featured in the upcoming Paris Olympics that are about to start in Paris. So again, these connections with these, it's really a lot of symbolism that gets brought in from the past to the present. It's an amazing painting. And this is my last slide. You'll be happy to hear. Embracing the future, humans partner with artificial life, still unsure of ChatGPT, robots, and humanoids, fearing loneliness and isolation. And here on this image here, this woman embracing a robot. This is very much in public discussion now to solve the problem of human loneliness with robots. They could be chatbots, or going further, like a whole human robot. It's like being with a human being, but it's a robot. And this is, I thought this image captured that sense. I think that'll be reality soon. There'll be a lot of this. Depends how expensive your robot will be. And so energized by 2023's AI advances, 2024 has ushered in a big tech race to achieve AGI with Meta, OpenAI, and Microsoft, causing US and European governments to ramp up mandates to control AI and tech developments, fearing cultural social disruption tied to global social media verse, a real place. This is what people are having trouble understanding. It's virtual, but it's real at the same time. It's a big part of people's everyday existence, social media. And the very nature, what I call the infosphere, information has morphed into the infosphere, how we define it. And that's the chapter on research in a computational framework takes that up. Because research, particularly academic research, has been totally bogged down in old school methodology that doesn't even account for the social media or any other experience as a document and interaction and all these things that are things of the moment that we capture, digital capture and curation. This is important research material. Anyway, this is, Jonathan tells me time is up. Do I have any time for one question?
Thank